The person who wounds you and then comforts you owns a part of your nervous system no healthy relationship ever will. This is not a metaphor. In 1965, psychologist Martin Seligman discovered something disturbing about dogs, electricity, and the architecture of helplessness. Dogs, given random, unpredictable shocks, eventually stopped trying to escape, even when the door was wide open. But here is what the textbooks leave out. The dogs who received shocks and then comfort from the same handler became the most attached to that handler. Not despite the pain, because of it. Your nervous system runs on the same ancient wiring. And right now, someone watching this is in a relationship that functions exactly like that experiment. They call it trauma bonding, but that term makes it sound clinical. What it actually feels like is the most intense love you have ever experienced. That is exactly the problem. To understand why these bonds feel so unbreakable, you need to understand what your brain is actually optimized to pay attention to. Your brain does not care about your happiness. It cares about your survival. And the most important survival information is not what stays the same. It is what changes unpredictably. This is why the partner who is sometimes cold and sometimes warm gets more of your mental energy than someone who is consistently kind. Consistency is invisible to your threat detection system. Intermittence is a siren. In the 1950s, B.F. Skinner put pigeons in boxes with levers that dispensed food. When the lever worked every time, the pigeons pressed it when hungry and ignored it otherwise. When the lever never worked, they gave up and stopped pressing. But when the lever worked randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no pattern, the pigeons became obsessed. They pressed the lever thousands of times. They pressed it until they collapsed. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. Casinos call it profit. Your nervous system calls it love. The bond does not form during the good moments. It forms during the relief after the bad ones. When someone hurts you and then holds you, your brain releases a specific cocktail of chemicals. Cortisol floods your system during the conflict, your stress response activating every alarm. Then, when the storm passes and they become gentle again, dopamine and oxytocin surge. Not at normal levels, at levels that dwarf anything a stable relationship produces. The contrast is the drug. The pain makes the comfort feel like salvation, and your brain stamps that feeling with a label. This person is essential. Your body does not distinguish between someone who saves you from danger and someone who is the danger. It only knows, this person made the pain stop. This is why abuse survivors often describe their worst relationships as their most passionate. They are not wrong. The intensity was real. The passion was real. The feeling of needing that person more than oxygen was real. It just was not love. It was addiction wearing love's face. Now, here is where it gets darker. The person doing the hurting does not have to be a monster. They do not have to hit you. They do not have to scream. The cycle just needs 3 things: idealization, devaluation, and intermittence. Idealization is the opening act. You have never felt so seen, so special, so chosen. They mirror you so perfectly, you feel like you have finally found your missing piece. This phase sets the anchor, the high water mark your brain will spend years trying to return to. Then comes devaluation, subtle at first. The eye contact that used to linger now slides away. The texts come slower. The warmth comes conditional. The criticisms start threading through conversations. You think, I must have done something wrong. You think, if I can just figure out what changed, I can get us back to how it was. This is the trap clicking shut. Because now you are working to earn something you already had freely. And every time you earn a moment of warmth, it feels like a victory. A victory that bonds you tighter than any easy affection ever could. Psychologist Patrick Carnes, who coined the term trauma bonding in the 1990s, found that this cycle rewires the brain's attachment system. The intermittent reinforcement literally changes which neural pathways fire when you think of your partner. You do not choose to obsess over them. Your brain physically cannot stop. This is why friends and family become so frustrated. They say, just leave. They say, they are obviously bad for you. They say, you deserve better. And they are right, and it does not matter, because they do not understand the physiology of what they are asking. They are telling you to overcome withdrawal while living with your dealer. They are telling you to quit a drug that has already remodeled your brain's reward circuitry around one person's face. This is why leaving feels like dying. Not metaphorically. Your nervous system interprets the separation as a survival threat. The same brain regions that process physical pain light up during social rejection. Naomi Eisenberger's research at UCLA showed that Tylenol can actually reduce the pain of heartbreak. Your body does not know the difference between a broken bone and a broken bond. But here is what makes trauma bonds especially insidious. They do not just make you attached to the person, they make you attached to the version of yourself you become around them. In the good moments, you feel like the most special person alive. In the bad moments, you feel like you are nothing without them. Both become your identity. Neither exists outside the relationship. So when people ask why you stay, the real answer is, you no longer know who you are without them. Leaving is not just leaving a person, it is leaving a self. And there is another mechanism most people never discuss: the investment trap. The more you sacrifice for a relationship, the harder it becomes to admit those sacrifices were mistakes. Every boundary you drop, every friend you distance yourself from, every piece of yourself you erase, these become reasons to stay. Because leaving means all that suffering was for nothing. Staying means it might still pay off. Economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. You keep investing in a losing position because you have already invested so much. Your heart is not rational, but it is very good at accounting. So how do people actually escape? This is where the reality diverges sharply from the expectation. People expect healing to look like a revelation, one moment of clarity that breaks the spell. They imagine a clean break. You realize the truth, you walk away, you never look back. That is not what happens. What happens is ugly and slow and looks like failure from the outside. You leave and you come back. You leave again and you come back again. Studies show survivors leave an average of 7 times before leaving for good. Each return feels like proof that you are weak. But here is what the research actually says. Each leaving is practice. Each time you stay gone a little longer. Each time you remember a little more of who you were before. Each time the withdrawal is slightly less unbearable. Not because the bond weakens, but because you slowly rebuild the neural pathways that connect you to yourself. This is the part no one prepares you for. After the bond breaks, you will grieve. Not just the person, the intensity. A stable relationship will feel boring at first. Kindness will feel suspicious. consistency will feel like absence. Your nervous system, trained on chaos, will interpret peace as danger. You may find yourself creating conflict just to feel something familiar. This is not backsliding. This is your brain running its old software on new hardware. The work of healing is not forgetting the pattern. It is noticing when the pattern runs and choosing not to follow it. Every time you notice the pull toward chaos and stay in calm, you build new wiring. Eventually, peace stops feeling like absence and starts feeling like presence. But that takes time. More time than anyone wants to hear. Months, often years, of choosing boring over electric. Of trusting someone who does not make your heart race because they might leave. Of learning that love does not have to feel like survival to be real. There is something else you need to know. You did not create the conditions for this bond by being weak. You did not stay because something was wrong with you. You stayed because your nervous system did exactly what millions of years of evolution designed it to do. You bonded to the person who represented both danger and safety because that is how human attachment works. The same mechanism that bonds infants to imperfect parents bonds adults to imperfect partners. You cannot choose who your nervous system imprints on, but you can choose, slowly and painfully, to teach it something new. That what feels like love and what is love can be different things. That intensity is not intimacy. That the heart racing might just be fear.